Welcome back to Words for the Journey, Words of Faith, Hope, and Love for the journey of life, the journey of faith. We're looking at the 10 most important passages or 10 great passages to understand the story of the Bible and to understand the God of the Bible. And I'm picking up a passage that we just looked at recently as we're going through the book of Revelation with our church community. And we were looking at a prophecy from the book of Daniel, chapter 7. And in that prophecy, we hear about, this is the beginning of the chapter, we hear about the Ancient of Days, which is a description of God Himself. We hear this kind of description from Daniel 7. Daniel looking, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow, his hair was white like wool, his throne was flashing with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. So it's this image of the Ancient of Days, God on his throne, and it's like the heavenly courtroom is being set up for him. And then we read this later on, a few verses later. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, or a human being coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days, he approached God, and was led into God's presence. And then it says, the Son of Man was given authority, glory, sovereign power. All the nations and peoples worshiped him, and his kingdom and dominion will last forever. Now, that's an amazing passage because we have the Ancient of Days who's on his throne in his courtroom. Along comes one like a Son of Man, a human being, and the Ancient of Days brings him into his presence and then gives him glory, honor, power. Nations will worship this Son of Man, and his kingdom will never end. It's like the Ancient of Days or God shares his rulership, shares his authority, shares his reigning over the world and the nations and the universe with this Son of Man. It's really breathtaking. But it picks up from the very beginning of the Bible God's intention that human beings, and the language used there in Genesis chapter 1 is, I want you to rule. I want you to have authority over the earth, over the creatures of the world. So we have that same theme picked up here. God's the ruler, but he invests or he gives this gift of almost co-rulership or sub-rulership, but it's togetherness to human beings. Now that is amazing. A God who has power, but doesn't just hold the power all to himself, he actually shares the power with his creatures. And then later on, at the end of the Bible, in the book of Revelation, we have Jesus speaking to 7 churches, and to the final church, the church of Laodicea, he says this, to the one who is victorious, to the one who perseveres in faith, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne. So Jesus has a throne, and he says, if you're victorious with me, I'm going to share my throne with you. Now, this is, for me, amazing, unexpected, but it helps me understand this God of the Bible. This God of the Bible who doesn't hoard power, who doesn't wield power against other people, but could I say he invites people, especially as we follow Jesus. He invites us to have this rulership as well. Under his rulership, like the rulership or the life of Jesus, but not hoarding power, but really sharing power with humanity through how we see Christ live his life, his rulership, as he serves and sacrifices life. So God calls us to do the same kind of leading or ruling in this world. I love that vision of God. I love that vision of Jesus. I love that vision of who we are called to be. Thanks for joining us for Words for the Journey.